Hi, this is Robert Clinkenbeard with the Commercial Landscaper Podcast. We're going to take 20 minutes of your life to deliver some amazing content from accomplished leaders and business owners to provide you with some value to help you scale your business, become a better leader, and push yourself out of your comfort zone into something which is going to stretch you. We really hope you enjoy these shows, and we really encourage you to like and share with your friends and network, which is only going to help us get a wider audience and improve our industry. I'm super excited to announce that in 2023, we're going to be announcing new partnerships, some digital courses, some rebranding, and your opportunity to be coached by one of our many industry leaders, experts, or coaches. Cheers, everyone. Hi, this is Robert Clinkenbeard with the Commercial Landscaper Podcast. I'm really excited today to be joined by Matt and Kurt Bland. Thank you for joining me today, guys.
Thanks for having us, Robert.
Yeah, thank you, Robert.
So I'll maybe get each of you to explain a little bit about your background. Start with you, Kurt.
Thanks, Robert. I'm 48 years old, and our family has been doing landscaping for 48 years. So you can see there's a coincidence there. And I studied at North Carolina State in horticulture and ag business before moving out to California and helping run a landscape business out there as a department manager for Del Conte's, and been back now 21 years and have thoroughly enjoyed the process of working with my brother to grow the business that our parents started in the 70s. This is our 48th year in business. And to think that, just a year and a half, 2 years time, this company will be 50 years old. It's really a hard thing to process sometimes, but we're enjoying it.
That's awesome. Matt?
So my name's Matt Bland. I work for my brother here and have been here for almost 20 years. I spent 3 years at IBM doing financial management and attended NC State before that, but never studied landscaping. I've always been in the finance and accounting and business management side of interest, and as came back to the business and have run it with my brother for the past 20 years in various roles as we grow it, and enjoy the journey so far.
That's awesome. Well, again, thank you for joining me today. I'm really excited to share your story with, we have probably 4,000 or 5,000 listeners throughout the States and Europe and Asia. So, yeah, one of the things we talked about offline, and actually before we get to that, I always remember seeing you at one of the NLP conferences, Matt, and really enjoyed your presentation. It was just a good introduction to you. So again, thank you for doing that. You obviously do a lot for the industry.
Yeah, I remember the conversation when I sat with you at lunch and I asked a lot of questions about how you'd grown your company so fast.
That's why I have no hair left. So, obviously you've got a tremendous reputation in the region. You obviously offline, we were talking about how you've scaled the company, and, just before we went live, you talked about, back in 2012, you started to think about scaling your company. I'd love to hear more about that, what that journey looked like, what your vision was. So, Matt, do you want to jump in with that?
Yeah, when we started in 2012, we were looking for some of the resources to really start to have the tools in place to grow the business. And at that time we were starting to acquire things like ERPs and HRMSs, or human resource management softwares, and other tools that we felt would get us an ability to start to grow. And at the same time, we were also ramping up more of a customer service model and a sales model that would allow us to grow and to really start to pick up our pace of expanding. Over the next 5 years, we worked towards, sorry guys, I think Kurt should be doing this section here. I'm sorry.
Go for it, Kurt.
Yeah, he's muted though.
I'm unmuted.
Yeah, that's why. I don't know why you just speak up.
Go for it, Kurt.
That's
all right. So, Robert, in 2012, Matt and I had just passed a pretty important milestone as business partners and a second generation. Our mother had passed in 2006, and in that period between 2006 and 2012, Matt and I had been partners with our father, but we had by 2012 figured out a buyout strategy that we could buy out his ownership of the company. Doing that gave us the clear runway, if you will, to think about it as our own business and not just, a business that we were stewarding with our father. And that made us start to say, okay, if we're running our business, what does that look like? What is that going to mean to us? Back many years ago, Matt and I were college roommates for about a year and a half, 2 years, right before I graduated and as he was finishing up. And we would, after having a few beers, talk crazy talk about, this idea that we were going to do a 50-50-50. Our dad used to always talk about 10-10-10 was his 10 weeks vacation, 10% growth and 10% profit. And Matt and I said, Dad, we're going to build upon that and we're going to do this 50-50-50. And that was this idea that, me being the same age as the company, that we wanted to try to grow the company to 50 million in revenue before the company reached 50 years old and I reached 50 years old. And, frankly, thinking about that as a 20 something, that seemed like this eternal goal that you would never reach. I never thought I'd be almost 50 years old. Being the idea of taking this business that had grown from the basement of our parents' home into this potential to elevate it to a much larger scale. It was something that both of us were dreaming about, and our parents would kind of laugh and, yeah, you guys, don't get ahead of yourselves type thing. You first got to learn to run it. And so 2012 was that milestone where we were past that period of transition. It was a sink or swim moment. Like, okay, you wanted to buy this thing out. You wanted to run it. Now you've got it. What are you going to do with it? We had recovered from the real hard knocks of the 2008-9 recession. Coming out of that recession, we took a real blow in the 2008 and 9 period of time. And we made some promises to each other. We said, we're not going to let construction be more than 20% of our business ever again. We're not going to outgrow our resources. We're going to focus on maintenance as our core discipline. And so as we started thinking about that, we said, well, where does that take us? And then you started to realize that meant geographic expansion, and geographic expansion meant system expansion. And it meant that we had to really put in place a framework to be able to scale a company. And at the time we were thinking regional, and okay, our goal was to grow throughout the central Piedmont of North Carolina. That ended up taking us to Charlotte. I remember one day about 2012, 13 timeframe, maybe 14, somewhere in there, coming into a meeting one day with all of our executive team at the time and saying, guys, you know what, I'm going to step away from all of my responsibilities with respect to operations, and I'm going to start going to Charlotte, and I'm going to spend a couple nights a week there, and I'm going to figure out what we've got to do to grow this business. And we did that, and I started organically making that sort of stuff happen. Well, then, you be careful what you ask for kind of expression. Right. All of a sudden, we're getting opportunities. People are saying, yes, we would love to get you down here to do this work. And you're picking up contracts, you're buying trucks, and you're buying trailers, and you're buying trucks, and you're buying trailers. And then all of a sudden we're sitting there saying, okay, we've run this business very conservatively forever. And now we're sitting here starting to have to borrow money to grow the business, and not borrowing money for operating purposes, but, lines of credit with enterprise, for example, to be able to buy a fleet. And, when you were buying 10% growth worth of assets and you were highly profitable, then it was easy to do that. And that's what our father had done. But here we are now, we're growing at 20% a year, and we're doing it so aggressively that the growth was outpacing the ability to fund it. And so we started to find ourselves facing this challenge that a lot of business owners face. What is like, well, where do I get the capital to be able to do that? Now I've got all these personal guarantees. And even though I've got a corporation, I'm now sitting here signing more personal guarantees. And, at the time in 2012, the government wasn't really making us feel good about some of the things that we were dealing with as self-employed people. So we're sitting there like, we've got to figure out how to grow. So we get to this size that in 2016, we've implemented human resource software, we've implemented ERP, we've implemented all kinds of different tools organizationally. And without really knowing what we had created a platform, but we had created a platform without a funding mechanism. And the funding mechanism was yours truly and Matt. And the two of us were sitting here saying, wow, do we really want to just, grow to the point that, you just have to be comfortable with the amount of debt that you take on, or is there another way to do it? And so as we started to scratch our heads, we had seen other people in other industries make similar decisions. And we decided, okay, we need to get an investment banker involved. And we hired an investment banker, and they represented us well. And we went to market, and we started to meet potential investors. As we got to understanding more about what that looked like, we found ourselves being really fortunate to meet a group of people by the name of Prospect Partners out of Chicago, that private equity firm that specialized in the lower middle market. They had been looking for a platform in the landscape sector for a couple years with a lot of diligence involved. We checked all the boxes for them. We were experienced, but we were young. We had built the platform with the ERP and the HRM and all these different parts of the business that weren't necessarily typical of a business our size. And they said to us, they said, we want to invest with you. We want you to invest with us. And we want to help you grow this business by giving you the access to the institutional capital that private equity gets to work with. And so, it was this kind of epiphany where we had this lofty, dreamy idea for years of, could you have your cake and eat it too? And even our investment banker, when we explained to him what we would like to see the outcome be, he kind of laughed a little bit. And he's like, well, guys, you realize you're looking for a unicorn. And we said, no, we get it, but we're prepared to be the unicorn if somebody is prepared to do that with us. And so that's what took place in that period of time from 2012 till 2016, and then really teed us up for what we've been doing 2017 till the present. And I think, the systems themselves, the importance of that, that's where I'm weak. Matt is very strong in those areas. We're fortunate because as a CEO, I'm a kind of a dreamer. I'm not a follower.
You're the visionary.
I'm a visionary to a fault. Matt is excellent with the follow through side of it. And we're fortunate that, as being siblings, that can work together. And that took time as well to get to the point that we had that mutual understanding and full respect for each other's strengths and weaknesses. We've been really lucky in that sense. So that's kind of the first part of it.
Yeah, and I think when you look at how my brother and I work together, we are very different in our interest and in our skill sets and in our personalities in a lot of ways. And we found a way where we can work together, and at that level, when we can do that, we actually have a lot more success as a team. And I think that's been something we've worked through over the years to figure out. When we got more into that 2012 to 17, while we were building the new markets, we're also building up the ERP and all these tools that Kurt's referencing. That was a process that was new to us. ERPs, or Boss and Aspire and products like that were brand new to the industry. We had tried a lot of different things. We tried to build our own, and we were looking for something that gave us a path to more systematic approaches. I remember the first thing we were having trouble figuring out is contracts that had varying occurrences on them. We would do everything top notch, A+ service. And if the contract didn't have that in it, we'd still do it. And so we needed something to help control that. And we were still learning. And the other part that was very intriguing back then is we see other industries do acquisitions. And we thought we're ready to do acquisitions in 12, 13, 14. And we never acted. We never made the mistake of going after something we couldn't go after at the time and couldn't afford to go after. But we never could get our head around understanding the complexity of a transaction and the lending and all the parts that go with it, that if you haven't been there and done that, it's very overwhelming. And the private equity groups brought some of that forward as information. And when we didn't know Prospect Partner before we went through the process, we had never heard of the firm. We had not met any individuals there. But one thing that was very appealing to us was their success on doing bolt-ons to existing businesses. And so they have a track record of being very successful in finding a platform, a company that's been operated by generally founders like us or second generation founders like us. And then having the ability to add on other businesses in the same industry and truly integrate them into the company. And as opposed to gluing them on and leaving them as separate brands, they had a history of integrating companies. And we looked at that and thought that skill set, along with the resources they could bring financially and strategically, really was promising and exciting when you see somebody that aligns with you and skill sets align as well. But then we felt the fit was with the individuals. We felt comfortable in the room, and the people we were meeting with, you said we could do business with these people. I could trust these people. That was very good. That was exciting.
Yeah, and that must have been tough trying to choose the right people, because I remember when I sold my company, we had numerous companies come after us, and we tried to do our due diligence and who were the right partners for us, but more importantly, who were the right people, partners for my employees, to make sure they had opportunities. So how did you go through that type of due diligence and trying to choose that right partner?
Well, we did a broad search, right? So to find the right partner, we talked to a lot of not right partners. And we were lucky that we found ourselves with options aplenty to go in different directions. We didn't want to go in the direction of a strategic because at the time, I think I mentioned earlier, I'm 48 now. When we did this, I was 42. And I'm sitting there thinking, I'm not looking for an opportunity to retire here. I'm looking for an opportunity to grow. Finding somebody that had the same growth mindset was really important. Finding somebody that looked at Matt and I as being key to the success of this entity was extremely important, because I've seen other people make this same decision and have different outcomes. And knowing where we wanted to go was continue to run the business, grow the business, create opportunity for the team members, right? Best example I can use, when we started this process, I used to always think, if we could just afford to pay managers a six-figure salary, God, you realize how easy it'd be to find talent. And I would dwell on that, right? You couldn't really afford to as a smaller company. You still can't afford to across the board by any stretch. But when you started to think about this business becoming a bigger entity and elevating the positions that existed and creating new ones, things that we didn't even know. I remember when we were in Chicago presenting to the investment committee of Prospect Partners, the founder of the firm had met us at the office unintentionally at 7:30 in the morning. Matt and I didn't know what time to show up, and so we just showed up. Happened to be there. The meeting was at 9, but we were sitting there at 7:30, and Lou happened to be there at 7:30. And so as we're sitting there presenting to these guys, we're in this boardroom, we're overlooking these iconic Chicago skyline buildings. And they asked us, they said, so guys, what investments do you need to make to scale this business? Like, what positions don't exist that you need to create? I said, there's not really any. I was naive and I didn't know what I didn't know. I was sincere in what I said. I wasn't blowing smoke. I was very sincere, but I didn't know what I didn't know. And so, now with the benefit of almost 6 years of hindsight to look back at it, we have created, we have 9 locations nowadays. We have, sounds stupid, I don't know this off the top of my head, but it's either 6 or 7 branch managers. I'd have to sit there and count it all up in my head. We have recently added a vice president of finance. We have our vice president and general manager, Joe, that's been with us through this whole process. We have recently added a vice president of sales. We have a full business development team that we didn't have before, who you have been very helpful in working with us to develop. We have regional operations managers that seem like a pie in the sky idea. We just created those roles last year. And so when I look at, our goal was to create opportunity for ourselves and to create opportunity for the people on the team and to build future opportunities that showed people a career path that would draw them to our organization. That has happened. It's happened in a really positive way. When I came home from California 21 years ago, our company did, I don't know, around $9 million in revenue. We grew up until the recession, and then we got our tails kicked and had a major scale back, and then had to grow back. This year we'll probably come in somewhere close to $60 million in revenue. I don't know exactly. I'm not a real numbers focused type CEO. I'm really lucky to have the finance expert as a team member, and a sibling and partner. But the fact that, I can remember as a young leader growing this company, what it felt like to have our first $1 million month. Well, the other day, I think, Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was like $5.5 million last month or something like that. Mm-hmm. And I stop and I think about this and I say, okay, we wanted to create opportunity. We wanted to grow the team so that everyone else could create opportunity. We wanted to be able to have a regional presence. We're slowly, it's taken 48 years of doing this to get here, but we're slowly creating those outcomes that we set to do. And I think when you're going through this process, like a lot of things in life and in business, when you find the right fit, it. I was, I think 25, 26 when I got engaged, but I proposed to my wife 6 months after I met her because I knew I'd found the right one. I think that sometimes when you find the right fit and it feels like the right fit, you have to trust your instinct. And in that process of meeting all these different potential investors, all of them are willing to pay a lot. All of them are willing to invest a lot. All of them are willing to give you financial guidance and access to capital. But our partners, what differentiated them to me was that, like Matt said, we felt like from the first moment we sat down that we were on the same page with them. And we aligned with what they wanted from us, and they aligned with what we needed from them. And I was pretty brazen about what I needed. And I would tell all of them, like, we need capital. We need capital without personal guarantees that will allow us to grow this business. We know how to run this business. We know how to grow this business. I will say, did not realize how much they could help us in those areas. And our partners haven't been the type to get involved in operations like some do, which was big to us. Some of these investors were of the mentality that, hey, we'll partner with you. And we literally had one guy say to us, if we partner, I don't care what my title is. I'll put an office right in between you guys. And, titles aren't important. The three of us will figure this out. I was like, dude, see ya. Not what we want. And so our partners have been very much like coaches and a board. And we felt that from the beginning. And when you're sitting here in the situation we were as young, successful entrepreneurs that were looking for opportunity to create more opportunity, it was really important to get that part figured out right. And I think we did.
Yeah. Awesome. And I think it's interesting because if you go back, early in our career, my brother and I had our father involved, or he had been there and done some of that, but we quickly passed that window where he hadn't done what we were doing. And our short-term mentor in that aspect, we're at stages he had not passed yet. He had never gone into a new market. We were trying to deal with things that were intimidating. You look at how long it took us to figure things out as we would try to get over a new task. We make mistakes. We didn't know sometimes. We'd use consultants, we'd bring in outside resources, but outside resources are still outside resources. There's some things that you kind of have to figure out. And I think when we've had a partner like Prospect who's gone through acquisitions or gone through adding certain executive components, it's helpful when somebody even from a different experience and industry can go, hey, here's what we've seen. And sometimes it applies, sometimes it doesn't, but it does shorten down that process, and it does shorten down a little bit of getting confidence in, hey, this is the right move. And I think you tie that in with having more resources available and thinking a little more strategic about it, it gives you more confidence making that move. And, something that going into a new market that may be a little more concerning to a smaller business, we view it more as an investment than we do an expense. And taking the mindset that you're investing in certain parts of the business to grow it, you start to view them differently, and you don't treat it as a burden to the company as much as an opportunity to grow it. And I think they've helped to shift that mindset a little bit and accelerate, growing to be a better landscaper as we go.
No, that's awesome. I'd love for you to expand a little bit on obviously they help with a lot of capital, but what other expertise did they bring to the table? Just, was it confidence? Was there any other strategic help just with helping you scale the company?
Yeah. So the first thing is making us think bigger. I told this to, sometimes I get used as a reference. Matt and I both do when prospect is looking at a platform in a different industry altogether. They've never been in the landscape space. We're the only landscape investment they've ever made, but they've built, I think, 55 or 56 platforms in other industries. And so sometimes they'll use our names as a reference and we'll talk to people. And I was having this conversation with somebody the other day, and I said, the old adage of be careful what you ask for, right? You're sitting here, you want to grow, and you're saying, okay, I need capital. And if I had capital, I could grow. And then all of a sudden you get past this recapitalization and you've got capital. And in the PE world, that's referred to as dry powder. And when you've got that dry powder, it needs to be deployed, because powder that's sitting on the sidelines is like the best quarterback sitting on the sideline in the final quarter of the game. You need to have the capital deployed. And so we're sitting here saying, all right, well, that's cool. We got past closing. They're saying, all right, guys, well, let's do this. What do we need to do? And I said, we're good. Like, and they're saying, no, we need to start making serious thought into the investments we make, right? And this is before you're thinking about buying companies. You gotta go from that transitional point of having just recapitalized to getting past that honeymoon, which happens very quickly, to then getting into the nitty gritty of what do I have to do to build the platform out stronger with a better foundation to be able to sustain the growth. And for us, that meant creating true branch management positions. We had oscillated back and forth with the idea of branch management before. We had used the title before, but loosely. What we recognized was we needed to create roles where people took ownership in their respective geographic business units or their discipline business unit. And so prospect, where Matt and I would have said, okay, well, we need to hire, I think that first year we hired 5 positions like that. We would have said, okay, we'll get that done over the next 2 or 3 years, because we're not going to, bang up our cash flow by making all these investments at one time. Prospect's attitude was, no, guys, we need to do this now. Like, the clock is ticking. We've got the capital ready to go. Let's go hire these people, because if we don't hire these people, we can't sell the work, we can't grow the work, we can't produce the work. And so as soon as we got those people in place, then the conversation switched to, okay, now what are we going to do to accelerate sales? And sales was my baby. Okay. And I had always prided myself in being a really good salesperson. And I will say that when I first embarked upon this journey, we embarked upon this journey, I was probably wearing, I like to say, theoretically 12 to 15 hats as an owner operator. Those hats were anything from I knew more about the fleet than anybody else to I was the best salesperson. I did the marketing. I had all these different things and I enjoyed them. Today, I've had to learn to let go of every hat that I used to wear. And I can clearly and concisely say that in these last 6 years, I've had to evolve to having a clear understanding of what are the 3 things that I focus on, right? And to get to from wearing those 12 to 15 hats to having 3 things to really focus on, that meant a whole lot of growth. Not just growing the company, but growing as people, growing other people, creating opportunities, because you can't take the hat off if you haven't grown somebody and developed them or hired them that you can hand them the hat you're wearing, because you can't just put the hat on the ground. And so for me these days, those 3 things have evolved into strategy, communication and networking, and storytelling and cheerleading. And if it's not one of those 3 things, and I find myself doing it, I have to pause and say, wait a second. Why am I doing this? Is it because we don't have that person that should be wearing that hat? Or did I delegate it to them and they delegated it back to me? Or what exactly is going on here? And what prospect, and I think a lot of well-established private equity firms use as a strategy, is they take the entrepreneur that can do these things and can get this stuff done that's coming from that lower middle market like we were. And they push the entrepreneur that wants to be pushed to accelerate the timeline of the decisions and the investments that they make, to make those decisions with high objectivity and to increase the level of accountability. We went from never having had a board of directors. Matt and I mean, from the time our mother got sick in 2004 until we partnered with Prospect in 2016, 17, that period of 13 years there, we were figuring it out on our own. We didn't have a boss. We didn't have a board of directors. Our dad wasn't in the business. Our dad gave us a week's notice when he retired. We didn't see it coming. We had no way to prepare for it, right? And so after 13 years of like making decisions that sometimes you drug them out because you didn't want to spend the money, or you made the decision and then realized that you made the wrong decision, all of a sudden we had structure to help us as entrepreneurs think more like a big business in a good way, with board level accountability. And I had somebody, I told my partners this yesterday and Matt, but I had somebody recently tell me that I was subservient to my partners because I have investors. And I laughed about it. And I can laugh about it with my partners, because if you find the right partner, it's not a feeling of being subservient. It's a feeling of being empowered. Mm-hmm. I am empowered now that instead of me going to a prospective acquisition target and saying, hey, I'd love to buy your company, but I don't know how I'm going to finance it. I'd need to work it out with you. You'd have to help me with the owner financing. Maybe I can get an SBA loan, all those things. Now I can go, and I do this a lot, I can go and have the conversation with somebody about acquiring their business. And I don't have to second guess for 1 minute how we're going to finance it, because I know that the team of experts that we are partnered with and the team of experts that we now have built at the executive level, funding, closing, due diligence, quality of earnings, all that stuff, piece of cake. Post-closing, the integration process, thanks to the help that we got from Prospect and the direction that they pushed us in, we have a smooth procedural manner to handle these things, and we've become quite well versed in it. And like anything, if you build a machine, you've got to put fuel in it. So they have given us the tools and the knowledge to see around the corner without, just taking blind faith in some of these decisions, but saying, yeah, guys, I mean, I look at Eric and Brad as being counsel to us. They are business counsel, not legal counsel, not accounting counsel. They are business counsel. Guys, we're facing this question and we're not sure how to deal with it. What would you do? And what have you seen others do? And that's been the empowering part of it. And for those that consider it subservience to be in that situation, I would ask them to read their lending agreement with their bank if they really want to understand subservience, because I don't look at it that way at all. I think that we have become highly empowered. We've got access to institutional capital, and we've got business partners that have the experience and the acumen to help us make better decisions in a more timely fashion that have higher predictability in the outcomes.
Awesome. Matt?
I think the words that come to mind to me, the three really, pace, resources, and definitely accountability. The pace, we've always moved at a rapid pace. You don't know that you can speed it up, and then you realize you can speed it up. And we weren't at the pace you were back in your day from growth rates, Robert, but we were moving at what was pretty rapid. I would consider, the faster groups in the industry, and to see that accelerate. And a lot of that was the decision making and the resources being there, that we felt more confident moving faster. The resources, which Kurt touched on, financial and strategic. But the accountability was the part that's kind of interesting to me. When we would have a bad month in the past, it would be, crap, we had a bad month. Kurt and I might have a beer. You go on about it, and sometimes we wouldn't dissect it enough. Sometimes we wouldn't process it enough. Sometimes you just wanted to go by and move on. And now, if we have a bad month now, there's a lot more to understanding it, and a good month, or any month really. And there's a lot more. There's always somebody going, well, in a right way, where are we going? Are we on track? Are we not on track? And so when we hit a dip or something, we do have to have a little more explanation around it or a little more understanding of it. And at first that feels like a burden, but what you start to realize is it's the part we should have been doing at times when you might be frustrated. That's probably when you need to dig in a little deeper, but sometimes you don't want to. And when there's a board there and ourselves, you start to go, we need to dig a little deeper into that. We start to understand it better. And to me, I tie that back to, how do you prevent it next time? A lot of times, maybe we get one or two things out of that conversation that we go, all right, we need to be on the heads up on that. It's something we haven't experienced before. Or it's the same old problem we've run into in the past. How do we prevent it from occurring again? So it has helped us make a little more stability in our predictability or stability in our financial earnings, and just knowing when we're going to have a hiccup probably a little better than in the past.
No, that's awesome. Some great messages coming through here. Thank you, guys. So what does, I love the whole 50-50-50. I mean, obviously you've surpassed that now, but to have that type of messaging to your employees, I think that's powerful. There's so many companies that they're either have a lifestyle business, or they're not willing to share their vision with their employees, or they just don't even have it in their head to have some type of vision. For you to be able to go to employees and share that with them and get them really inspired, I think that's amazing. So what does the next few years look like for the two of you?
Well, I will first say I really like what we're doing. It's a good feeling on a lot of different levels to see the progress that we've made. And when I go back to the three hats that I wear nowadays, and the clarity of understanding, a lot of my work in the company is to inspire people. I have a lot of sideline conversations where I'll send out a email to the whole company about something that's going on, and I'll get some really candid and personal responses back from people. We're having our annual safety day so each branch shuts down for a full day and focuses on safety and training, and they're doing that branch by branch over this week and the next week. And I've been getting some photographs, and I actually reposted a post yesterday on LinkedIn that one of our newest branch manager, James, who came through an acquisition, had posted something about his safety day. And as I read what he posted, and I thought about, this is almost as if I had written this script myself, and I hadn't. I had no influence over it. I didn't expect him to post it. It was a complete surprise when he posted it. But I'm sitting here looking at him saying, okay, this guy's been on our team for 8 going on 9 months. He was an account manager at the company that he was at when we bought the company. He's now the branch manager. We had previously almost hired him as an associate branch manager during an interview process the year prior. So I knew him, and we knew he had potential. And I'm sitting there looking at it and saying, okay, we have helped him get from that point of being an account manager to branch manager. He's got a long ways to go, and he's growing. But I got some messages from him. He and I have had some text exchange today where the ability to sit there and work with somebody that you're watching develop and grow. I could say this about all of our branch managers. And each one of them has a specific story of how they got into that role and what they're doing with us. Our VP of sales that recently joined us for 18 years. I've known him in 18 years. I'd tried 3 times to recruit him. I never had the right opportunity for him. You've got an opportunity to work with him recently, Robert, and he's a dynamite individual. To have the opportunity, his name's Tyner, to have the opportunity to work with Tyner and Joe and Adam, our 3 vice presidents, and watching these people come into their own, right? It brings me a lot of joy. One of our account managers, a guy named Jorge Triana that works for us down in Charlotte. Jorge is known in the Charlotte area as just being a really darn good account manager in commercial landscaping. He's been with different companies prior to us, obviously. And I had met Jorge at a trade show a few years ago. And in the lobby of the trade show, we get in a conversation. He speaks Spanish. He's originally from Colombia, and I speak Spanish. And so he and I start talking both in English and in Spanish. And He's an avid tennis player. His brother's a tennis player. He's a really neat guy. Well, Jorge and I had this conversation. He says to me in that foyer, he's like, one day I want to be on your team. And I was like, well, man, dude, one day I'd like to have you on our team. And the stars aligned and the opportunities aligned. And now Jorge's been on our team. And I know as of this morning, he's been here 11 months. And the reason I know that is because this morning, in response to an email that I sent out to the company, Jorge sent me back a very thoughtful and long email about how people ask him all the time how he likes his job. And that even though it's been 11 months, it still feels new, and that he's never been happier. And that the way that we empower people to create opportunity and the way that we support our staff and the things that we're doing, that he's never been happier as a professional, and that he really, really values everything we're doing. And when I get to have these conversations with the long-term employees, recently we just celebrated an equipment operator that's been with us for 30 years as an equipment operator, and he's super talented. And we cooked up a bunch of ribs and chicken for him to celebrate his 30-year tenure. And I look at it that I've got the best job in the industry. I get to serve the needs of great customers. I get to work with institutional capital to grow our business organically while buying other companies. I get to create opportunities and show people their own potential and capabilities beyond what they might have ever dreamed. I get to help owners of businesses that we buy leave their legacy in good hands while preserving the positive legacy that we have created over these last 48 years. And I'm having fun while doing all that. And I'm having people tell me that it's the best place they've ever worked. Now, there's surely somebody out there that doesn't feel that way, that thinks it's the worst place they've ever worked too. And I'm humble, my feet on the ground about that, right? The guy that's out there shaking pine needles for 10 hours, he may not feel that way. But my job as a cheerleader and a coach and an inspirational speaker is to, when I do get the chance to interact with those people, to make them feel that way. And I tell people all the time, the best gift I have as far as natural gifts as a person that has made me successful at doing this is I can talk to a man on the street that's homeless in English or in Spanish just as easily as I can talk to the billionaire customer that we work for to take care of their private estate or their investments or the institutional capital or the people that are in between. And to get to do that on a routine basis, and to get to watch these people achieve their potential under our stewardship brings me a tremendous amount of self-satisfaction. I gave up on, you hear people talk about what's your 5-year plan, your 10-year plan. I have learned over the past 20 years that I don't set 5 and 10-year plans. I instead like to focus more on what we have control over, because I feel like there's too many external variables in the world these days to tell you what I'm going to be doing in 5 to 10 years. But I can tell you what I'm going to be doing in the next 1 to 3 years. And I can tell you that that is very similar to what I'm doing right now, which is continuing to inspire what I think is the best team in the business to grow into new markets, to meet customer expectations, to do it with safety in mind, and to give our investors and ourselves the kinds of return that we deserve for the risk that we take every day when we do this. And how that manifests itself, it'll probably look like pretty blue collar stuff with some white collar touches to it. But it's fun and it's a privilege. And to sit here and talk with you about it and tell this story, I really appreciate you letting me do it.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Kurt. Great story. Matt?
Yeah, I'm enjoying it too. I think the part that interesting to me now in my specific role, we'll continue to buy companies, which I enjoy that a lot. I like the process of meeting an owner. I like analyzing businesses and understanding there's different ways to do it and applying that to what we do and learning from it. And I like, we've grown up in this industry and being around the people. The founders in this industry are a lot like our family, and they normally didn't go say, I've got a business plan, let's go buy some trucks. I mean, most of them started mowing grass on a weekend, or something didn't go their way, so they ended up over here in landscaping. And You go back 30, 40 years ago, and some of these guys have interesting stories, but they're stories that we can relate to so much and have been around, and the kind of individuals we really like. And I like to see that person have a happy ending to their story and a path where we can show a good path to their employees, and they can leave an industry that years ago, you really couldn't exit this way. And if you did sell your company, it's a little more accepted now than it had been years ago. And I think as we do that and we continue to organically grow, I think the part that's also interesting right now is, I didn't think we could grow organically while doing acquisitions, while doing significant operational improvements. I thought they were kind of 2 out of the 3 maybe, but doing 3 out of 3 simultaneously seemed undoable. And I think I've passed that. I think we can do those where we've got the resources and the team together where we can drive our organic growth with the VP of sales. We can drive integrations with our team that's been set up to run those while looking for operational synergies. And my goal with the operational synergies is not just find margin in things, but to make it easier to be successful in our company. And if you look at the last couple of years with COVID, and then coming out of this hyperinflation, and I think you're past inflation and price gouging in some areas, there's really opportunity to find some low-hanging fruit. And as we grow to the next size business and start to approach that 100 million in revenue, I think there's an economy of scale that we haven't had before, and it's showing up in these regional roles, and we're finding massive savings in areas of better decision making by having experts in those regions for things like fleet and equipment, and so I think there's more there, and it's an area that's exciting because it's kind of a new area for our business at this stage, and we've been through this when we hit that $15 to $20 million size. We started to see a lot of synergies and efficiencies. But we've been so heavy on acquisition while just dealing with COVID and everything else going on, it just hasn't been a focus. And when you start looking around and you find things that we can improve to make the company more profitable, but also make that branch's job easier, and I emphasize the branch because it's really the regional support for the branch. That's exciting. And so, how do we do better and make it easier at the same time? And I think the next couple of years, there's a lot of that out there for us to improve on.
Awesome. As we wrap things up here, any parting words, Kurt, for some of these young up and coming companies?
Dream beyond your comfort zone, but keep your feet on the ground while you do it. That I think we've kind of seen a flip-flop, if you will, of when our father started this business, and a lot of the contemporaries of his, and 3 of the 4 companies that we've acquired have been 40-year-old companies that were our father's contemporaries and his peers. That's part of our strategy, is that we know a lot of these people. They went into it, like Matt said, not because they were businessmen that saw a vast opportunity the way that people do today. They were simply trying to provide a good living for their family. There's a lot of people that still do that in this business, in this industry. And that's the lovely part about this industry, is you can do that, right? You can have a hugely successful lifestyle business if that's what someone seeks to do. But what's also happened is, and this is where the flip and the flop have occurred, is you now have people from the outside that are looking at this space and they're saying, man, this is easy, right? This is a piece of cake. All I got to do is get in there. The barriers to entry are very low. I just need to get in there, get a fleet going, get some people out there selling work. And if I get some revenue, then all I've got to do is put some top line growth up there, and I'm going to have myself a very valuable asset that I can go sell. And as a result of that, you've got some poor decisions being made on some people's behalfs, where they're taking rumors and misinformation of companies transacting for multiples of revenue, and what they don't realize is companies don't transact for multiples of revenue. They do in technology, for example, but in the landscape industry, they transact for multiples of discretionary cash flow, multiples of EBITDA. And so you'll have somebody that'll say, I'm not worried about being profitable. I just need to grow. And when I get big enough, I'll be profitable. And it's kind of like how do you, I had a very successful businessman that was buying golf courses one day on a job site say to me, somebody asked him, they said, sir, How do you become a millionaire buying golf courses? He said, well, it's easy. You start as a multi-millionaire and you buy enough golf courses that you're now a millionaire. And so sometimes people think that they're going to scale their way out of not being profitable. And I hate to tell them that in this industry, you're not going to do that. In this industry, you've got to build a business that runs on sound business principles. You have to, as you scale your business, stay truthful and mindful of what those principles were that made you successful and profitable in the beginning. And you've got to preserve those in spite of growing in order to scale. And I think if more people would take note of that, it would help improve the overall nature of the competitive marketplace. Too many times people approach it and say, I need to buy some market share. And they base that maybe on the fact that they saw a national company price at a certain price point. So therefore they're going to go do that. Mm-hmm. What they don't realize is that national company probably has economies of scale that may allow them to do that and still earn the return that they're looking for. But because they're running a small startup sized company, they've not achieved those economies of scale that occur at 5 million, 10 million, 20 million, 40 million. And for us right now, 50 and 60 million. And we're seeing this, like what Matt said just a little while ago about, the fact that we're being surprised that you can grow organically while doing acquisitions and integrations and make all these improvements. Some of the, I don't get involved in most of these meetings, but some of the notes that I read coming out of our operations meetings and our regional meetings and branch meetings and stuff, frankly, sometimes I'm overwhelmed. I'm like, wow, these guys are really impressing the hell out of me, what they can juggle, but you got to walk before you can run. And I think that we're all witnessing with all the tech layoffs. What do we know today about the tech layoffs? Well, tech companies overhired, they overstaffed, they spent money they didn't have. And because interest rates allowed for money to be basically free, there was no penalty for it, right? And now the rules have changed. And so what are they doing? They're having to let go all this talent. And people are looking at it saying, they shouldn't have done that. Mm-hmm. Easy to say in hindsight, but we're a little bit different. And build something strong from the beginning.
Yeah.
Stick with it. Be the tortoise, not the hare. It's taken us 48 years to get to this point, right? And I have people say all the time, oh my God, you guys are growing so fast. I see your trucks everywhere. I'm like, yeah, but what you don't realize is that for 48 years, we've been slowly chipping away at this. The last 10 have been accelerated, but that's the best advice I could give.
Awesome. Thank you, Kurt. Matt?
Yeah, I would just say do it the right way. Don't cut the corners, and corners in our industry can be anything from job sites to undocumented workers to underpricing work, whatever. Trying to grow your business too fast, it catches up to you. It's going to catch up to you on your P&L. It's going to catch up to you on cash flow. And if you see somebody go bankrupt in our business, it's normally not because they didn't mow the grass good enough. It's because they didn't manage cash flow or they made a bad business decision. So, make the right decisions and do it the right way. There's a lot of resources in our industry, and the landscaping part, the historical resources that have always been there, to the more developed consulting groups like your own, to people coming from other industries to this. These individual that we just hired for a VP of finance is not from my industry. It's from a different area, a different region, a different industry. And just realize there's people out there that can help show you the right way to do something. And when you go to buy these companies, or you go to exit, or even just have pride in operating your own business, you want it to be what you're proud of and aligns with who you are and what you're trying to represent as a business. And I think when we're making good money, I think it's easy to say this. I think the time that the person really gets tested is when the right thing costs them financially, and it may cost them significantly financially to do the right thing. And when those situations come up, you'll learn that you need to do the right thing, and eventually it comes full circle. And if you cut too many corners, it will catch you. So try to build a good business, like Kurt said, and you'll come up good in the end.
Cool. Thank you, Matt. Guys, today, as we wrap things up, today has been super inspirational. If my listeners have not received a handful of golden nuggets from this, they need to go back and listen to this 2 or 3 times. So truly inspirational, great story. I know you're both really busy guys, but really do appreciate your time. And Love everything you do and giving back to the industry. And thank you very much again for your time today, Kurt, Matt.
Thanks. Thank you, Robert. Have a fantastic day.
You too.
Yeah,
Take
really
care.
appreciate the friendship with you.
Yeah, you too. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Hopefully that was pure, dead brilliant for you today, and you got some great takeaways for your business or your leadership role. This is Robert Clinkenbeard, and we'd love to get you and your friends to join us in our future journey. So please subscribe through the various podcast channels or visit thecommerciallandscaper.com or brucewilsoncompany.com and check out some more information there. Anyway, hopefully you all have a pure, dead, brilliant day. Cheers, everyone.